The big problem issue here obviously is Africa, as usual. It has a lot of problems, and where the yields went down and stay low. And that's again a matter of management, soil management, where the soils have been exploited over the years because of lack of inputs, lack of know-how on how to do it better. So you can see sort of in some continents flat, a bit up, and in Africa down. So that's something also shows that the benefits of the Green Revolution have mostly kicked in Asia, but also at a huge environmental cost. Much less in Central Asia here, where it's much more difficult because, again, the growing conditions are not as optimum as in Asia, where there's a lot of water and good soils. In Latin America, things are also looking fairly good, but in Africa, obviously not. And the Green Revolution has never worked in Africa, it will not work. Never mind the Gates Foundation, who is now throwing millions in a new Green Revolution for Africa, but I think that's doomed to fail already because we know that the conditions to build a Green Revolution are not there to begin with. Another big issue is investment. Investments in agriculture have gone down because food is taken for granted. You've seen the price going down, so the policymakers say, well, why should we invest more money? Prices are down, they're very low already, so if we just do more research, well, what is that going to do? Not very much. Well, big mistake, in particular when you look at investments in the developing countries again, where it's very, very low. And just a different color show the part which is in the public sector and the private sector. And you can see that in North America, Europe, the private sector is investing more already than the public sector, but in other continents, it's mostly the public sector. And actually, most of that money here, which goes into agri-research in developing countries, is actually money from your taxes. It's USAID money from OECD countries in general, which go to support agricultural research and development in developing countries. So the problem here really is that the private sector has not enough of a stake to help, and that's a big issue we need to solve also in the future. Climate change, and that's where things are going to really bite, because we're not really taking it seriously. The brick has not hit the head yet, because whatever we do, I mean, even if today we stop driving, we can be sure that there will be almost 3.6 degrees more than we have now. You can see that for food, water, ecosystems, extreme weather events, we are getting into an area where it starts to become orange and into the red. That's not good. For Bangladesh, this means that there will only be 90 centimeters or 3 feet of water more, which means that 1/3 of the country is underwater, no matter what. Never mind the glacier melting around the Himalayas, which will ruin a lot of land again also. Just to say that people have not yet realized the dire situation we are in terms of agriculture and our landscape because of climate change. And I think that to play the ostrich any one day longer is really very, very dangerous. And for people who have children, I think they got to think a bit better. And some work has been done, a lot of work has been done actually to look at what may happen. And you can see for Africa, yields are down, and this is basically the projection for the years to come on yields, with the exception that here in that zone here where there may be a bit more water, basically the trend is yield per acre down. This is on maize. Now we also found out that there are major disconnects out there, and we need to deal with them. One is this disconnect between agriculture and the environment, because we have been, again, agriculture creates problem in the environment, but we need to be able to overcome this. So we have to do agriculture in harmony with the environment, not against the environment and the ecosystem. We have a disconnect between the consumers and the farmers, because consumers, what do they want to do? They want cheap food. But the farmers actually need to survive. So here we have another problem between an understanding between the consumers and the farmers. There's also a lack of confidence because of all kinds of problems with health, which have happened lately in the US and elsewhere, on the quality of the food. So we have this disconnect at that level. And we have another disconnect really between the policies and the consequences of the policies. I just can mention one: subsidies. Subsidies may look good here, they look very, very bad somewhere else. And that's what we have been doing over the years, subsidizing farmers, mostly the big farmers who don't really need it. And so the countryside has been emptied. Large farmers have grown larger in the north, or in America, in Europe, the same way. While we have made it impossible for farmers in the south to be competitive. So, the challenges ahead, demand for food will double. That's sort of the best estimate we have over the next, about 25 to 50 years. Because population will grow from 6 billion today to about 9 billion, or 6.5 today to about 9 billion people. After that, one expects the drop in population, but until then, we're going to have to feed all these people, one way or another. So how can we do this? Not only with the quantity of food, but also nutritious food, quality food. How can we then do that at the same time to increase the income for the farmers out there and stimulate economic growth? Because again, in most developing countries, agriculture is the #1 stimulus for growth. And that's why we cannot continue to subsidize agriculture in the north at the tune of 1 billion a day. That's what we are supporting. Within Europe, in America, in Japan, the farmers get $1 billion a day. So your incentives package looks almost small now, right? So just to say that, and then the farmers in the south who get nothing, they even get taxed, are supposed to compete. So I mean, you can see that this is just plain impossible. So again, so we have to really solve this problem here. And while again we need to meet food safety standard, it's very important because a lot of the food also in the developing countries have phytotoxins in it, aflatoxins, for example. We need to make sure that the farmers keep healthy, because if they use pesticides, that's not a very good thing to do, because they kill themselves and then they get sick, and also the whole issue of environmental concern. Now, one thing which we have to understand is that agriculture is done in a system, and so that's why agriculture is multifunctional. And from this multifunctionality, we will be able to actually make agriculture sustainable, but also make sure that it can bring rewards to the farmers. So first, we have agriculture is very much involved in the social sector, environmental sector, and the economic sector. And in the middle here, that's where we produce food. So these are very important areas. And then the overlap here between sort of social and economic, that's where we have sort of the traditional issues come in. Farming is a culture, no, agriculture, these are two words. So it's food and culture. So very much a cultural issue, so we have to diversity the food sources again. Doesn't do any good to eat only maize, rice and wheat and potatoes. I think for our health and also to maintain the cultures. We also have the intersection between society and the economy, and that's again here where we can actually go back and look for additional crops to commercialize them and to find ways and means to bring more food onto the market rather than just for subsistence farming. And then when you look again here between the economy and the environment here, I think we have to try to valorize the ecosystem services. And that's where we should be paying farmers as a subsidy, because the farmer, he or she, will make sure that you people in cities have clean water, fresh air, and a landscape to go and relax. And that's worth something. Well, imagine you couldn't go out of the city anymore. Well, maybe people will not be that happy. And maybe that has a value. Well, I think in the future, and this almost 500 people, and actually the major agencies now are saying, yes, people will have to pay for this in the future.